Hello there, and welcome to the first episode of Willy Talks. I'm Willy Bomb, and today we're going to be talking about God and religion. This video has three parts. Number one, does God exist? Number two, does believing in God make you a better person? And number three, what if God is real? I'll start off with the most important question of this video. Does God exist? And my answer is, I don't know, but I don't think it matters whether or not he does. I personally believe that if believing in God makes you a better person, then your faith is a good thing. Now, some people might argue that if you only do good deeds out of the fear for God or out of the fear for eternal damnation, then you're not really a good person. I disagree with this viewpoint because I believe that a person's moral goodness should be judged based on their actions and not their inner thoughts. Now, of course, the motives and the intent behind one's actions do matter, but they matter so much less than the actual physical impact of those actions. So long as you make the world a better place, it doesn't matter why you did it. But Willy Bomb, I hear you ask, you said that you don't know if God exists. This sounds like you don't believe in God. And you, dear viewer, you would be correct. I don't believe in God. I simply do not discount the possibility of his existence. But Willy Bomb, why don't you believe in God? Well, it's simply because I've never seen compelling evidence for his existence. I'm now going to list and talk about three popular arguments for the existence of God and explaining why I think they are all wrong. They are the cosmological argument, the teleological argument or the fine-tuning argument, and then three, the historical evidence such as the Bible and the Quran. If you're familiar with these concepts and you don't want to hear me talk about them, you can skip ahead to this timestamp. I'll start off with what many would consider to be the strongest argument for God, and that is the cosmological argument. This argument has two premises. Number one, everything that came into existence has a cause, and number two, the universe came into existence. And so following these two premises, we can come to a conclusion that the universe, which had a beginning, the universe has a cause. And that cause is defined to be God. That is, God is defined to be the creator of our universe. And so it seems like flawless logic. God must exist. But see, here's the thing. And that is, a causer does not have to be conscious. Now, I have here a water bottle, right? And if I drop it, me, the causer, which was conscious, I caused it to drop. But if you can imagine a river, right? And under the river, there's a rock. The river flows, and the river pushes the rock out of its place. And the rock flows with the river, and the rock hits, let's say, another rock. In this case, the rock hitting the other rock, it had a cause. The cause was the river pushing it. But the river was not conscious. And so in this case, a causer does not have to be conscious, just as our universe might have had a cause, but that causer might not be conscious. But now you say, if the causer of our universe wasn't God, then what was it? My favorite theory is that before our universe, there was another universe just like our own. So if you didn't know, in our universe, all these celestial objects, the suns, the stars, they're all going to die out one day. And so when the last star has died, and when the last black hole has evaporated, our universe becomes a dead universe. But in this dead universe, the particles, they don't cease to exist. Every particle is still here, and they're randomly bouncing around in the dead universe. And randomly, after eons and eons and eons, all the particles will all bounce to come into a single point, randomly. And so that point, when that has happened, is the start of a new Big Bang. So that's the theory. Before our universe, there was another universe, right? And the universe, it had a beginning, which was another universe. But this universe, it happens, all the stars, but then they die out. And then boo, 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 randomly bouncing around. New Big Bang, our universe. And there's an infinite regression of these universes. That is, universe dies out, Big Bang, new universe. So the start of each universe, or rather the cause of each universe, is a previous universe. And so boom, the problem is solved. Each universe is the cause of the next universe. There is no need for God. Now, this theory is a problem for theists, or rather some theists, because they think that infinite regression is a problem. I don't think infinite regression is a problem. Let's just define this chain of universes to be a single universe, but let's not call it a universe, let's call it a timeline. This chain of universes, we'll call that a timeline. And just as God could be infinite, the timeline could also be infinite. Just as God could be causeless, the timeline could also be causeless. And the timeline doesn't have to be intelligent. It doesn't have to be conscious. And so any property you can apply to God, you can just as easily apply to the timeline. You can say God is infinite and causeless, but you can just as easily say that the timeline is infinite and causeless. There is no need for a conscious God in this theory. And if you say that, well, the God and the timeline is one and the same, then it doesn't have to be conscious. The timeline / God could exist without intelligence or consciousness. And now we'll move on to the teleological argument, or the fine-tuning argument. This argument says that we live in a world so perfect for life that it has to have had a designer. That is, if the physical constants of our universe were to differ by even the smallest percentage, or if the laws of physics were different, then life wouldn't exist in our universe. Now here's my rebuttal. How do you know that? How do you know that if the laws of our universe, or if the physical constants of our universe were different, life couldn't exist? If they were different, a new form of life could exist, just not life as we know it. It's baseless to assume that life can only exist under the conditions of our universe. But now you could argue, what about the Earth? Isn't the Earth special? We are the only place in the known universe where intelligent life exists. Doesn't that mean we have to be created? We have to be designed by somebody? Not really. And let me give you an analogy. If you give a typewriter to a monkey, and you let the monkey randomly slap around on the keyboard, randomly typing out letters, eventually the monkey types out Shakespeare. Let's just say eventually the monkey types out Macbeth. And now you look at the monkey with his typed out Macbeth, and you say, if the monkey had got even one letter wrong, then it wouldn't have typed out Macbeth. So the monkey must have done so with intention, right? See how that logic is flawed? Just as the monkey could have randomly typed out Macbeth, a non-conscious universe could have randomly created life. There is no need for God. Just like the monkey with a typewriter, we could exist by pure chance. And finally, I want to discuss the historical evidence for God, such as the Bible, the Quran, and other works that reference these holy books. I'll start off with this. I do not view the Quran, the Bible, or any other holy book as evidence for God because, as far as I know, these books could have just been works of fiction written by men who wants to sell books and make money, or to make up a story to control the public. As far as I'm concerned, those books are just about as credible as Percy Jackson or Harry Potter. That's a pretty good comparison as well. Let's imagine that Harry Potter was written thousands of years ago, right? And just as fan fictions are written about Harry Potter now, Harry Potter written thousands of years ago would have had other works that reference Harry Potter or talk about Harry Potter, right? And then historians, modern historians, they look back and they say, wow, look at how many books are written about Harry Potter or reference Harry Potter, how many authors that do so. Harry Potter must be real. Magic must be real. Hogwarts must have been a real place. That's basically how I view the Bible. So far in my life, I have yet to come across concrete evidence for the realism of any holy book, or even any physical evidence for divinity. For example, the feather of an angel or a flame that never dies out would have been evidence for God, but there is no such evidence. There is no physical evidence such that theists have to resort to logical arguments like the two we discussed in this video to try to prove the existence of God. Honestly speaking, the lack of physical evidence for God is enough for me to not believe in him. And now going back to the start of the video, I said it's a good thing to believe in God if it makes you a better person, because it's our actions that matter, not our thoughts or motives. In this sense, I view faith in God as more of a moral code than a religion. Everyone has a moral code, I know I do, and I don't think it matters whether or what you base your moral code off of, so long as it improves your actions. And finally, the last topic I want to discuss in this video. What if God is real? I know I just said it doesn't matter, but let's just imagine that God is real and he is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good. how do we explain the evils in this world, such as innocent children getting cancer? Why would God allow such things to happen? I like to imagine that God is a programmer and that the earth is a program he left running while he went on vacation. And just as a programmer has to work within the rules of the programming language and compiler they're working with, God also has to work within the rules of the universe, even if he himself is the creator of it. So I don't actually believe, if God exists, that he is all-powerful in the sense that he can do anything he wants in an instant. I believe that he actually has to think about what he's going to do and then write out the code and then implement the code. I also don't believe that he's all-knowing, because just as a programmer might not know how his code will actually run, God might not know what his changes into the physical world will actually, how his changes will actually pan out. So he has to sort of look at these changes and then decides whether or not he wants to keep them. Like dinosaurs, for example. Dinosaurs exist, which means that if God exists, he must have played around with him for 165 million years before he decided, nah, I don't want him anymore, and then chucked a big rock at him. In coding terms, I like to imagine that he wrote a method that goes through the object array containing all life on Earth, and that deletes every object that had its species property set to dinosaurs. Now, going back to the problem of evil, how do we explain it? I think it's because reincarnation is real, and that God is punishing those seemingly innocent people for sins they've committed in their past lives. A child gets bone cancer, he must have been a murderer in his past life. I think this also perfectly explains why the LGBTQ community exists. If God doesn't want them to exist, as many theists would claim, then why did he make them? It's because when those souls reincarnated, there was an odd number of people in the world, or there were no baby that is of the same, the right gender for the soul. Here's how I imagine God wrote his code. So he stores each soul object in an object array. The soul has a few immutable properties, such as the immutable meaning they are unchangeable, such as sex and species. And when a soul is reincarnated, they get a default soulmate that they are programmed to try and find. And when a gay person is born, their soulmate was set. There was no person of the opposite gender that fits the right criteria for a soulmate. And so their soulmate is set to a person of the same gender. And then that person is default programmed to try and find out their soulmate, which is the same sex as them. And that's why they're gay. And this also explains asexuals, people who are not attracted to anybody. When they're born, right, there was no one in the world who fits the conditions for a soulmate for them. And so their soulmate is set to no one. And so they don't look for anyone. They're not sexually attracted to anyone. As for trans people, when they are reincarnated, there were no fetuses of the same sex as their own. And since the sex property is immutable, they are now stuck in the wrong body. So this is the end of the video. I just want to take these final minutes to talk about why I made this video. First of all, most of this video is just some random shower thoughts I had after I watched a few Alex O'Connor videos. It's not meant to insult or disrespect anyone. I'm sorry if it did. It was not my intention. I respect all religions and I respect the LGBTQ community. It's summer break for me and I have a ton of free time on my hands. So I thought, hey, instead of playing video games, I might try to make a YouTube video. So that's what I did. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and a subscription and leave a comment on what you want me to talk about or do next. Until then, I'm Willie Baum and my Willie is a bomb.